And this is Ken Kreitzer at the DMA and then conference in Los Angeles. I have a pleasure of talking to Harvard Business School professor John Deighton. And Professor, you were talking about a new study that you've done on the value of data and the change of data in the new economy. Just tell us a little bit about what you set out to do with this study and what some of the high points you found.
Right. So there were three parts to the study. The first thing was to work out just how big is the role of data in the U.S. economy. And when I say data, I mean personal data, data about people. And what we found was that something like a third of all marketing these days, 2014 is where our data was concentrated, one third of all spending on marketing involves personal data. In other words, marketing has become, or maybe you could say direct marketing has grown up to become a very big force in the practice of marketing. The second thing we did was to ask, what are companies doing as opposed to the vendors who provide these personal data-based services? What are they doing? And they're doing about $60 billion. So that means $260 billion of a total marketing investment of about $700 billion is being done with the use of data about people. The third thing we did was to look forward into the future, because the work I've reported on now is based on what's happening in 2014-15. So we looked a little ahead, being speculative, but based on the kinds of foundational trends that we see established, and the future looks probably as exciting as the last 5 years.
And Professor, you mentioned the importance of breakthrough of cloud capability for data storage, and also the iPhone over the last 7-8 years, and then a big breakthrough with adoption in about 2011. Why are those two items so important to moving the data economy forward?
So think of them as two sides of the same coin. On the one hand, the great IT department, the enormous air-conditioned server functionality is now available for rent. You can now buy a little bit of it, just as much as you need, and expand or decrease depending on your volume, which means that U.S. entrepreneurship is no longer in the hands of those with enough scale to buy those big IT functions. You can now rent, and that means we can see the startups, the little companies that need that CRM, that customer relationship kind of data, or that supply chain data, being able to buy it. The other side of that coin is the individual. The individual no longer needs a desktop computer, but has this device which is both a phone, but it's much more importantly, it's a portable computer. It's a portable identity certifier in payment systems. It's a portable location device telling us where we are and who wants to talk to us. So those two things, both of them, think of them as decentralizing, breaking away from large central structures of IT. That's what's made the world kind of interesting.
And just final question. I saw it on the Airflight ad out here with the 3 classes of service. We work extensively in the payment industry, where certainly the card brands have many different segments that they serve. But you said no longer about segments that are being served in an average way. It's about finding exactly what each individual customer would prefer in how a service is delivered to them. How successful is that, do you see?
I was doing a case study on Allstate Insurance, which one hardly thinks of as a startup, and the head of data in Allstate says, I no longer think of my market as segments of demand. I think of them as 300 million households spread across the United States, each one a market for my product. So it's hard to get your mind around it, but we really are seeing marketing being practiced at the level of individuals. It's doable. I did a case on Legendary Pictures, the movie company that supports so many teen movies and fan movies. They view the market for movies as very much the same thing. Hundreds of millions of fans, each of whom is marketed to at the individual level. Instead of producing a trailer for a movie, they'll produce hundreds, if not thousands, of trailers designed to serve the particular interests of subsets of demand for that movie.
Professor John Deighton from the Harvard Business School, great to hear your summary of the research that you've done for the DMA, and thank you for being with us at the @Then Conference 16 here in Los Angeles.
Thanks, Ken.
Pleasure, sir. Ken Kreitzer for CBS Services at the @Then Conference in Los Angeles.